Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Children's Worship. I'm so excited. You might be watching this on Easter Sunday. We look at our church season calendar. We are now on the very last Sunday after Lent, and we are celebrating Easter Sunday. So happy Easter, everybody. We sure are excited that you're here with us, and we're so excited to celebrate and be joyful this day in Easter. So we're going to get started with our service. We always say at the beginning, the Lord be with you and also with you. I will light our Christ candle. As a reminder, we keep this lit during our times together to remind us that God is always with us and that He calls us to be the light of the world. And a lot of the best ways that we can show and shine God's light into this world has to do with how we treat other people. And we always want to be kind to people and be gentle and have patience and have self-control. A lot of our fruits of the Spirit, this is our last week that we're focusing on them. So I know that you've done a wonderful job while you've been away and learning those fruits of the Spirit and memorizing them and helping live them out. So we have one more page in our book to do today, and then we will be moving on to something new next week. So I'm going to get started. Our story today is from the book of John, and it takes place right after Jesus dies and has risen. If you remember the stories that we did last week, they found out that Jesus was no longer in the tomb and that he had risen. He told one of his disciples last week, and she believed, right? Mary believed, but when she ran and told everybody else, they weren't believing yet. And so Jesus spends a little more time visiting and meeting up with his disciples, and so we're going to learn another story about that today. After God raised Jesus from the dead, Jesus' disciples continued to meet on Sunday, the first day of the week. This Sunday, the disciples were happy because last week they had seen Jesus alive in this very room. Jesus had said to them, "Peace be with you. As God has sent me, so I send you to do what I have said and done." Then Jesus breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." But Thomas had not been with them. Thomas said, "Unless I see and touch the nail marks in his hands and touch his side, I will not believe Jesus is alive." They closed the doors to the room. After the doors were closed, suddenly someone appeared. "Peace be with you," he said. Then he said, "Thomas, look at my hands. Come and touch them, and put your hand in my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said, "My Lord and my God." "Thomas," Jesus said, "do you believe because you see me? Blessed is everyone who has not seen me, and yet they believe." I wonder why Thomas doesn't believe the disciples when they say Jesus is alive. I wonder how the disciples feel when Thomas will not believe them. I wonder how Thomas feels seeing Jesus alive. I wonder why Thomas calls Jesus my Lord and my God. I wonder how people who have not seen Jesus believe that God raised Jesus from the dead. All right, so this story we often call the story of Doubting Thomas. And there's so much about Thomas that I think I can relate to, and maybe some of you can relate to too. He hears something sensational from his friends. He hears that Jesus is alive after he saw and heard and knew that Jesus had been dead. And he just can't wrap his head around it. He said, I don't believe you. I'm not going to believe you unless I see it for myself. And so Jesus actually comes to him and he says, put your hands on my hands and feel the holes and touch my side and see that it's me. And once he does that, I think Thomas believes. I think that's why he says, my Lord and my God. Like, I don't know if he said it rejoicefully because he knew he was alive, or if he said it like, I feel so bad because I should have believed people that told me that, and I'm sorry that I didn't believe. But regardless, Jesus met Thomas where he was and told him, even though you don't see, you have to see to believe, it's okay. And then he added to that, blessed are you who believe without seeing. And so many other people, I mean, this story happened, years ago, and we're still talking about and celebrating and believing the word of the Bible and the stories that we hear about Jesus. So there's so many more people that have believed without seeing than had to see to believe. But I think one of the reasons that they give us this story is that they want us to know that it's okay to doubt. It's okay to not have everything about your faith figured out. So as you get older and as you grow up, different parts of the Bible are going to mean different things to you at different times. And one of the reasons why it's one of the most read books in history, and that people read it from when they're little to when they're very, very old, is because you can get so much information and so much different meanings out of the Bible as you go on. So I think the lesson for today is that if you don't have it all figured out, you are right where you should be, because it's okay. And I think one of the wonderful things about Bower Hill that I love as being a member here is that there's so many people that have questions about our faith, and we talk about them openly, and that is okay. So if there's not something that you completely understand, you can ask one of your grown-ups, ask an older sibling, you can ask Pastor Brian, or you can ask me, whether you call us or whether you send us an email. We want to hear from you if you have questions that you want answers to, because we may not have the answers, but we will certainly share our wisdom and share our thoughts on it, so you can continue to have those things to think about. So the activities that I have for you this week are a few things. For my younger listeners, I have this sheet that I'm going to send you. It says, my Lord and my God. It's kind of a cutting and pasting work. So you're going to take the hands from the top and color them in and then paste them. And if you notice, I did two different color sleeves, because the hand with the hole in it is Jesus's hand, and then this hand is Thomas's hand. And so he's allowing, Jesus is allowing Thomas to touch his wounds for him to believe. So that's kind of a reminder of the story for the smaller, our younger kids. For our older kids, I'm actually going to send you a link to an article that talks about 7 very noteworthy people, and they have written and talked about their doubts with their faith. And I mean, I'm talking like big people. Like there's information in there about Mother Teresa. There's information in there about the Pope. So there's 7 different figures. Some of them are writers, some of them are just famous people that you may have heard of. And each one gives a little perspective on how doubt has helped them, actually helped them in their faith. So it's just it's not a long article, but it was something that I thought the older kids might be interested in. And I printed out something. There's an author named Anne Lamott. I've read a few of her books and I really like her, but I'm reading to you, this was from one of the articles from the article that I'm gonna forward you. So she wrote, I have a lot of faith, but I am also afraid a lot, and I have no real certainty about anything. I remembered something Father Tom had told me, that the opposite of faith is not doubt, but certainty. Certainty is missing the point entirely. Faith includes noticing the mess, the emptiness and discomfort, and letting it be there until some light returns. And that paragraph really spoke to me, especially right now, this season of our history where we're going through a pandemic and there's so many things that we are uncertain about, and that we're doubting. And so finding comfort in being exactly where we are and knowing that God sees us and Jesus sees us where we are, and they are going to meet us there, and they are not only with us right now, but I think they're carrying us through this time. And it's really a time for us to rely on our faith and allow our faith to grow, because we don't have to have it all figured out. So those words really helped me this week. I hope that they maybe help you. And then after you read that article, I sent some coloring sheets. So sometimes if my kids have a hard time going to sleep at night, I will ask them to find their happy place, and I tell them to either picture a beach or picture a beautiful garden, and I ask them, what are they seeing, and what are they smelling, and what are they feeling, and try to engage all of their senses and take them to a really happy place. So I have some detailed coloring sheets of outdoor places. I have one of a city. Just some of you might have a happy place in nature. Some of you might find your happy place in the hustle and bustle of the city. But while you color your sheets, you can be thinking about the article that you read. And then if you have questions about your faith or about anything that may be easy or hard that you want to write down, you can write them on the back of your coloring sheets. And if you decide to share them with either your grown-up or with myself or Pastor Brian, you're more than welcome to do that. Your grown-ups will know how to get in touch with us if you decide you want to do that. So that's what I have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again next time.